As a small business owner, my favorite thing about posting a job on LinkedIn is that when I hit post, I clock out and LinkedIn clocks in.
LinkedIn makes it easy to post your job for free, get qualified candidates, and manage them all in one place. Plus, LinkedIn extends the reach of your job post by allowing you to share it with your network. And hiring managers that add a hiring frame to their LinkedIn profiles receive 2 times more qualified applicants. Go to linkedin.com/achieve to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply.
This episode is brought to you by Indeed. We're driven by the search for better, but when it comes to hiring, the best way to search for a candidate isn't to search at all. Don't search, match with Indeed. Use Indeed for scheduling, screening, and messaging so you can connect with candidates faster. Listeners of this show will get a $75 sponsored job credit to get your jobs more visibility at Indeed.com/MBO. Terms and conditions apply.
Hey, it's Austin James. If you're like me, trying to live your best life while living with diabetes, you can relate to worrying if you're doing a good job managing your diabetes. I use the Freestyle Libre 3 Plus sensor to get real-time glucose readings and see the impact of every meal and activity to make better decisions. The Freestyle Libre 3 Plus sensor can help me live life with diabetes on my own terms, and it gives me more time for the things I love, like being a dad and a musician. Now this is progress. Learn more at freestylelibre.us.
For prescription only. Safety info found at freestylelibre.us.
Good evening. On tonight's episode of the Cardiff Central podcast, we talk about how we sent the Cheetahs home to Bloemfontein with empty-handed. We discuss the Rags loss against Ebbw Vale, and we preview the Christmas derbies. Stay tuned to listen for who we think is going to be in the team selection for the next 2 weeks. I hope you enjoy.
You're listening to the Cardiff Central podcast.
Hello and welcome to another episode of the Cardiff Central Rugby podcast. In the hot seat as ever is me, Harley, and I'm joined by Dan, and we're welcoming back Frazier, who's agreed to sort of come on as and when. How are you both doing, gents?
All good. Yeah. Loving life. Nearly Christmas. So, everyone's just totally relaxed and chill, and there's nobody really bouncing off a shopping cart in every shopping I go in and cutting me up on the roads. No, it's really, really nice and fun times,
Yeah, I'm definitely not in a constant semi-hangover state from all the Christmas drinks, but yeah, no, I'm doing well. Looking forward to stopping work for a bit.
Yeah, absolutely. But obviously, we're not here to talk about how many Christmas beverages we had, although I'm sure these stories will come up now and again on the pod. We're here to talk about all things Cardiff Rugby, and we're going to start with some big bits of news. So first of all, we've had 2 new signings announced over the past 2 days. Cardiff trying to keep everyone in the festive spirit. So yesterday, Liam Belcher, our club captain, re-signed, and then today we had the news about Ben Thomas re-signing. Good bits of business. I'm pretty sure Belcher only signed last year as well. I think they just keep saying he's renewed his contract and he's just never going to end one, but there we are.
The old Thomas Francis, the rolling contract that rolled on for about a decade at Exeter. No, it's great news about Belcher. Yeah, like I said, he signed, so he's already contracted to 2026, and this is just adding a bit extra on. So I think it's good that the club are proactive in that, and that they feel that they've got the financial stability to be able to commit to that long to medium term, I suppose you would say, as well, because obviously it certainly hasn't been the case when we've been scrabbling around for lads sort of 2-3 weeks into pre-season previously. But yeah, can't fault the signing of either of those players, key members of the squad, key leaders, and key guys you want around as we sort of build for the future at the Arms Park.
Yeah, I'd agree. I think definitely 2 positive bits of news this week. Yeah, Belcher getting a bit more time, and yeah, they're 2 people you can build a squad around. And that's a good sign that they think, as you said, they got financial clout to kind of keep them there, and then obviously got enough money to build the team around them. So that's really positive.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, given that, our pack, Belcher leads from the front of that pack, club captain, and let's be honest, he's been one of the form players for Cardiff for the past few seasons. It's good to reward that. Ben Thomas again is such a key component to our attack. I think, he must be. They must be numbers 1 and 2 to get signed down, get locked down every time the contracts come up. So that's all good news. Now in what's becoming and what is officially the win that took us past our win tally of last season. Cardiff beat the Cheetahs 26-10. It was a very nervy first half, though I'm sure Dan, who was at the game, can get into some of the reasons why that might have looked a lot worse than it did on the telly box. But most importantly, that's 5 points in Europe. We go in 6 points out of a possible 10, which leaves us in a good stead. Everything's still in our hands to make sure we get a home round of 16 fixture. Gentlemen, what were your thoughts on the game?
Go on, Fraser, you start.
Yeah. Well, I hate to bring up drinking again, but I didn't manage to watch it on Saturday, but did watch it on Sunday on a hangover. And I guess I did know what the result was, so I don't know if that shaped my viewpoint of the match a little bit. But I don't know. It was a solid performance. From me watching it. I mean, the first half was obviously kind of all Cheetahs. They had a huge amount of territory and they were kind of all over Cardiff a little bit. But again, I don't know if this is informed by knowing the result, but it felt a bit like, I don't know, maybe watching, for example, not a slam on the Dragons, watching them play an attack, because it didn't seem to be they would make a break or there was an opening, but there was just no clinicality. It didn't feel like it was going anywhere or there was that much threat to what they were doing. I think Cardiff defended well. Obviously, I'm sure we'll talk about it, but like Faletau being back was lovely to see. I think he had some really nice touches in the first half, especially off the back of a retreating scrum, which is his bread and butter. And I thought Dan Thomas had a cracking first half, and he looked unbelievable. But yeah, and then obviously into the second half, I think we started well, and kind of started to dictate how things were going. Scored some nice tries. I think, saw obviously Tom Byrne with his debut doing a bit of, I think there's one moment where he did a classic Harry Mellard against the grain line, which was nice to see, and he had some good breaks. And yeah, in the end, it was quite a comfortable victory. I guess the last 10 minutes was just rubbish. I think it was like we got the bonus point, and basically everyone decided to stop playing rugby. It kind of just like ended. But I think in the end, it felt like a quite comfortable victory that we had it in control, even when we were backs against the wall, so to say, in the first half. But I don't know. Yeah, that might have been shaped by watching it afterwards. But yeah, what do you guys think?
Yeah, I don't disagree. Like watching it live, there was no Cheetahs didn't really offer anything in that first half massively. I mean, we couldn't get out. Well, the wind was so strong coming down from the river end towards the clubhouse, as it often is. But we just could not exit. And I kind of don't mind how we did it in the end, because in that situation, you've sort of got two options really, where you can't kick out at any distance. You either you've got three options. You either just keep kicking and defending, as we did. You either keep kicking and sort of desperately defend and try and win a turnover or something, but run the risk of conceding penalties, which obviously the week before we fell on the wrong side, or you try and run it out, and that, if that can work. We saw the one try come from it really, where we got a bit of a break and Bowen breaks, but you kind of feel that more often than not you are going to invite some sort of trouble into your own doorstep, especially because in the first half in particular, that Cheetah's line speed was suffocating. And I think you can probably pause it and show them offside once or twice or whatever, but they set their stall out dead early that they're going to come with unbelievable speed and get up in our faces, and the referees probably just thought, that's what they're doing. They're probably timing it all right, carry on. And it took us a little bit of time to figure that out. But yeah, I don't want to get bogged down in this, but I wasn't best pleased with the Cheetahs, to be honest. I thought they were a bit pants in terms of possession, and I thought the aggressiveness crossed the line into sort of thuggery once too often. Really, there was a lot of interesting tackle technique. There was a lot of interesting breakdown shenanigans of sort of flying in on both sides of the ball from them. And fortunately, it was their own players that came off. I say fortunately, obviously not for those players, but you kind of, you fuck around and find out, as the saying says. So they sort of ended up themselves injured. But on another day, there's a couple of Cardiff players who come off quite nastily injured there. So it was lucky that we came through largely unscathed. But not going to get stuck down in that. On Cardiff, yeah, it wasn't the sort of 80-minute performance that we were perhaps maybe hoping that is going to turn up at some point. But maybe we, if you look at some of the top teams and stuff, they don't churn out 80-minute performances every week. They rarely do. We were resilient in the first half. We were clinical in that first 20, 25 minutes after half time when we needed to be. And then, yeah, I think we made that last 10 minutes rubbish by just sort of being quite boring about it. There was a moment, sort of 76, 77 minutes, where Callum Sheedy ripped the ball from the Cheetahs player, and he's overhead throwing it back to win it. And last season, brand new on the scene, Cam Winnett runs that. And we're all sort of saying, oh, it's great, great like ambition for him. It's good to see a young player expressing themselves. But this time he just sort of tight spirals it down the line to keep the Cheetahs in their own 22. And that is boring. That is rubbish. But it's also like really smart and intelligent. So that's sort of like where we've become now. I think is that we're a team that can win in that last boring 10 minutes rather than throwing it away and shooting ourselves in the foot.
I was going to say, actually, that was one of the more exciting moments to me, was seeing that and thinking, because I was thinking, oh god, we're going to run this and get turned over, and it was like, oh no, we've done this smart thing. Oh, I like this. I like Cardiff being vaguely sensible.
That last 10 minutes, like last year, we've lost a couple of those games in that last 10 minutes there of just sort of going to sleep and letting the back in. I think Benetton in round 1, where we sort of had it sewn up, and then we get a stupid red and they go and score a couple of tries and stuff. But it is good to see that we are becoming smarter and yeah, just sort of winning the games in small bursts rather than feeling like we have to play at 100-mile-an-hour breakneck speed for the whole game to make it somewhat interesting.
Yeah, absolutely. And I said, and going on with the Cheetahs being slightly over the limit. I mean, you'd have thought that they all thought Tom Bowen was about 6 inches taller than he was. The amount of times he was getting clipped around the neck, it was like, I'm not saying that Cardiff players weren't doing it. Some of the Cheetahs players, me to get rightly pinged for it, but it was uncanny. We've obviously talked about Belcher's contract extension. Must have purely come from that sheer line break, which broke the trend. So, saying me and one of the Rat family girls, Hugh Griffin, we came across a stat that 90%, it was something like 90% of line breaks from forwards end in a net territory loss, because it usually ends in a turnover.
Oh, I see.
And so it's nice to see Belcher's leading to a try. And the thing that upsets me is all the highlight clips show Bowen scoring the try, but they don't show the Belcher break beforehand, which makes it. And that's the thing that just puts me. But yeah, that first half I was a bit worried. I thought we were quite lucky with how many mistakes Cheetahs were making, and then I sort of watched back and thought, well, actually, no. To be fair, 2 or 3, quite a few of those we forced on them. There's this one turnover which both of them secures to get a goal line drop, where like 3 Cheetahs in a maul and he manages to hold that ball up, and not many. That takes a lot of strength, at least and discipline, just to sort of hold yourself in place and accept the fact you're going to go backwards. There's a lot of people try and either drop that maul or try and go forwards themselves, but knowing that it's just enough to keep yourself between the ball and the ground. Some good tries, not the best kicking performance I've seen in a while. Again, the wind probably didn't help that. This is where I'd normally bring up some stats, but Rugby Pass keeps trying to take me to an imaginary game in 2014 between the two sides whenever I click on the link to the game, so I can't actually get those stats. I said that's a good start for Europe. Probably would have liked to have got the win out in Lyon, but with a bonus point win here. Good stead. Probably not likely to top the group and get home semi as well, but certainly still in a good place for a home round of 16 at least.
I think Josh.
Sorry, no, go on, Fraser.
I was just gonna say Josh Adams he keeps on every game. He looks better and better and back to his world class player he can be. And he looked again this game. He looked good and just smart as try that little their game intelligence to see the gap and make that break was just good to see. That's basically what I wanted to say.
It's good to have a couple like that spine is kind of reforming a little bit now with Belcher back. Like Teddy's still been playing brilliantly, and then you've got Faletau looking, as you mentioned earlier, Fraser, looking like if that's his first performance back after 8 months, and then he basically hadn't played the last time he was back either. So it was like 60 minutes Ulster or something, and then he was off. So if that's the level he comes back at after such a long break and towards the end of his career, if you just got to pray that he can put a few games together now for us over this next period. But it's a good, like, I think it was quite good to see Jockey go into the bench early and give him Faletau just that sort of flat 60 minutes or so. Same for Belcher, come off quite
Well, yeah, I
early.
think 52 for them both, and
Yeah,
and you could tell they had more. It was changed not because they were spent, but because
yeah.
they'd gotten a good run out, and I imagine they're going to have much bigger roles over the next couple of weeks.
And it's a long break now after that game to the Dragons one, so they can properly recover and rehab and be ready to fly into Dragons. Then it's not the case of that we maybe saw with like an Alex Mann where he came back, had to be forced back into action quite quickly, and then sort of is throwing up on the pitch at the end of the Leon game. But it was good that Jockey felt able to go to the bench and that the bench made a good impact as well. Mention Mann, there's a really nice break for Josh Adams' second try from him. Uh, Big Al come on, and he's got plenty of energy always when he's carrying, and it was good to see him adjusting in game as well. He has one carry off the top of the line out in midfield where he gets held up, and then fast forward sort of 10 minutes or so, and we've run the same move, and he comes back in with a much better body position. He's much lower, still makes a bit of ground, but doesn't concede the turnover. So it's good to see players sort of adapting and adjusting in game as well. But yeah, that spine, we've rested Ellis Bevan there on the weekend as well, who can come back in. Um, Managed to take Ben Thomas off quite early as well. He put his feet up a bit, so didn't even, Beetham was rested after his first game back, so he can be ready to go for the derbies as well. I think, barring a slight lack of depth at the moment in the sort of 13 wing channel with injuries. Obviously, it was mentioned during the weekend that Harry Millard's done his MCL, so he's going to be out for a little while, which he just can't catch a break, it feels like, with the injuries at the moment. But yeah, I think if the current crop are in decent position with Lilo, Adams, Gabe Hamer-Webb, and obviously Tom Bowen is very raw. There's no question about that, but he's very exciting as well, very talented player. So I don't think there'd be any qualms about him potentially keeping his spot for the Dragons, as we might come on to a bit later. But yeah, the squad's in quite good shape after that good win to go on to have a good crack at the festive derbies there.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I agree, Tony. I mean, just a big shout. So the two big bits of breakthrough news, I'd say, for Cardiff over this European block, maybe not more so than results here, are Tom Bowen and Steph Emanuel, two players we were very excited and not expecting to see at all this season. But they both showed up quite well against seasoned opposition. Admittedly, the Cheetahs, they're no longer a top flight rugby side, but they're still decent enough. Yeah, and I mean, you can see there's definitely rough edges, but glad to see that that next generation's near enough ready to go. I think we've heard some promising news about Theo Cabango as well. Probably not this side of not this year. Maybe towards that. Possibly for the second block of European games, I think he might be around. But don't hold your breath on that one. We've had to use up numerous things with Cabango. Right, moving on. So now we're going to go on to the Dan section, which is the rags. So unfortunately, the rags came up short against Ebbw Vale, who are equally flying. So we're now second in the SRC. Dan, did you catch any of the game?
I didn't go to Ebbw Vale because I value not having frostbite in my extremities, but watched the highlights, and I think from chatting to a few people who were there, it was very much a game of how many people were missing, and sort of Cardiff looked like they were struggling with that. I think if you go through sort of the players who have played for the Rags this season, whether first team or semi-pro academy, you could have Reece Barrett, Danny Southworth, Will Davis King was missing. Sean Moore, the captain in the second row, was unavailable. Back rowers, obviously Mackenzie Martin's injured at the moment. Then going through the backs, there was quite a few lads like Harry Wild, Steph Emanuel, and Elijah Evans were all playing for Wales under-20 against Scotland under-20 development team in a friendly on Friday at Merthyr. Obviously, Tom Bowen was with the firsts, and Dewi Cross was a late withdrawal after picking up a a groin injury, I think it was, at training on the Thursday. So quite a lot of quality there. Obviously, a lot of names, but yeah, particularly through that back line, that I think if you put Matty Young ahead of Joe Goodchild, who Matty Young's also injured, that's pretty much your starting outside backs outside of 9 that were unavailable, and then a couple of key cogs in the pack. Going up to Ebu, who, yeah, as we said last week on the pod, really always a really good team, always a tough place to go, Eugene Cross Park. And I think probably the most disappointing aspect for the Rags was that they had a losing bonus point in the back pocket until they conceded a try right at the end of the game. And that's always going to be a killer when you come away totally empty-handed. But a couple of guys exposed who haven't had much game time this season, and a particularly interesting try for Edmund Anya on the left wing, who is a Kenya Sevens international. He played for Cardiff University in Buck Super Rugby last year. He had signed with Aberavon over the summer, but I think it looks like he got a job at a law firm in Cardiff then, sort of September odd time, and has probably felt that trekking down to Port Albert a few times a week is not particularly conducive outside of your private life as well. So, but yeah, if he's going to be around and add some depth and some quality, and looking at the interception try that he scored some pace as well, then that's going to be good for the Rags. But got to get back on the horse quickly now. 2 huge games against Newport over the next over either side of Christmas. First one's on Sunday. I think it's like a 4:45 kickoff or something random, but it's on S4C if you can't make it to the Arms Park. And then at Newport, I haven't checked if they've moved it to Rodney or not, but I don't think they will have, because there's usually a lot of games over the Christmas period there. So it'll probably be at Spitty Park on the Saturday the 28th. But yeah, I think if we lose both of those, then we're suddenly sort of playing catch up in the race to the top of the division. Not that it really matters, because everybody makes the playoffs anyway, but it'd be nice just for bragging rights reasons. But hopefully, yeah, there'll be a couple of guys back this weekend. Those under-20s lads should come back in. Hopefully Derek Cross's injury isn't too serious, and I think Sean Moore might have been ill, so hopefully he'll be back this week as well. But yeah, be good to get a statement win on the board against Newport at the Arms Park. Newport, same as Ebu, been in really good form. Started a touch slowly, but been really good the last few weeks, and they'll be obviously always keen to get up for that one. I would argue the biggest club game in Wales.
Yeah, probably. Absolutely. Moving on to what is a major rugby derby. We'll move on from what is a major rugby derby to one that we could have some debates over in a minute. But first, if you are enjoying this podcast, please give us a like and a kind review. And if you happen to be watching on YouTube, drop a comment from the video below and subscribe to the channel. And if you could share with a friend, that would be much appreciated. Now that's my shameless plug out of the way. How about we talk about the upcoming festive derby? So we're going to cover both derbies now tonight, because none of us want to do a pod over Christmas. Let's be fair. Most people wouldn't want to listen to a pod over Christmas. I certainly don't listen to any mid ones. Anyway, so starting off, we are visiting the Dragons at Dave Parade on the 26th, or Boxing Day, as it is more affectionately known. And then New Year's Day, we are hosting the Ospreys. So if we go talk about our nearest and dearest first, what are our thoughts on this game? So they had a good win against Newcastle away last week. Does that change your opinion on it, or are we all still fairly confident?
I think, still fairly confident that we're going to beat them at Rodney Parade. But I mean, that is the best thing that, could have happened, is them having a victory just before coming into the derby to give them a bit. Because as much as, I ultimately want Cardiff to win every derby against Dragons. I think last year Boxing Day was, I went to that and it was a bit, it wasn't sad, but we won at such a canter that didn't really feel like there was much value in the match, which is not what you want for a derby. So Newport winning on the weekend, which was good. I watched it. It was they played pretty well. It was like a solid victory. So that'll give them a bit of confidence and energy, and hopefully maybe add a little bit of needle into, or have them a bit more up for it and invested in the match, and a bit of confidence, and just make it a bit of a tighter game. But yeah, I think based on what's happened and the way that we're playing, I think we will probably, even if it's a close game, I think we'll get over the edge. Especially with the way you guys talk about last 10 minutes and being able to manage the game effectively. I think that being brought into the Cardiff will be of great benefit in games like this. Like if there's a nip and tuck derby, just being able to make the right decisions and not take any stupid risks. So yeah, I'm fairly confident of a win. But yeah, I'll be going along, so excited to watch it.
Yeah, I don't know. This Dragons games are never like they're sort of a slog usually, aren't they? Like we did that obviously hammer them last season, but especially at Dave, it just feels like it's always a proper like battle, and then ultimately we just sort of appear from somewhere and win it. The the long it's a bit we're recording this just under a week away or over a week away. But the weather's looking quite good for that sort of period, which I think will play into our hands a bit more because generally, sort of, when we struggle at Dave, the rain is sort of hammering down sideways, going into that uncovered north terrace, and it's absolutely freezing, and they sort of drag us into a forwards battle, which we just about get away with, but only just. Whereas if it's been a bit drier and the ground's a bit harder there, I think we can turn on the running rugby a little bit. Yeah, they'll certainly be a lot more settled. I noticed today on the day we're recording that they've confirmed. Well, I think the Argus has confirmed. I don't think Dragons have reported it that Philo Tiatia is going to be the interim head coach till the end of the season, which just gives them a little bit more sort of solidity in around what they're doing, less up in the air. And I don't think it's a surprise to anyone. I think as soon as he was appointed, it was probably felt that he would take over from Di Flanagan at some point. But yeah, so they'll be in a pretty good place. I think in terms of that win for the Dragons, it was, a bit of a changed Newcastle team, and they're obviously quite poor, but it was a changed Dragons team as well. There was a lot of young players there, and for a long time, it's been true for a little while, really, that Gwent does produce some of the best young players over the last couple of years coming through Wales. That the issue has always been that the Dragons have never really got to grips with how to introduce them to the squad and get the best out of them, create an environment where they can really thrive. So it seems like that's slowly starting to turn the corner a little bit. They're getting some better senior pros around them. They're properly blooding the young players, not just throwing them in here and there. And guys like Hugh Anderson and Joe Westwood, Morgan Lloyd, these are really good young players, and they've picked up a couple of smart signings from Welsh qualified lads from elsewhere as well. So yeah, I think it'll be probably one of the tougher ones we've had over the last few years. But like Fraser, I back Cardiff at the moment. I think we're just in a mindset with the squad where we feel like we can win, really, and that's not been true of Cardiff for a little while. But this group that's coming through are guys where Dragons are listing guys like Hugh Anderson and that we're listing guys like Teddy and Ben and Cam Winnett who've been through that introduction period and are now becoming more senior pros and putting us in a position where we can win games. So yeah, I'm pretty hopeful that we will do the job there and that it'll set us up nicely for a crack at New Year's Day then.
Just wanted to bring a bit of a little factoid that came up through the Dragons Lair pod. So when they were interviewing John Evans, and he was in the team that last beat Cardiff. So just to sort of give listeners like how long it's been. Like it's been nearly a decade now.
Was that in the league or the Challenge Cup quarter?
He was in Challenge Cup game.
Oh, okay.
And then I think he went to Bath shortly after the season after or something.
I always feel as well, like when we're talking about the record, that Challenge Cup game doesn't count, I feel like, because I'm pretty certain, and I might be wrong in remembering this, but I seem to remember that Tavis Noyle played a centre that day, which I feel like should just sort of null and void the entire sort of afternoon, really. It just doesn't count anymore. If you have to play Tavis Noyle at centre, that's not a real game, so really shouldn't count.
It's a moral loss.
It'll be good to see.
Well, as I said, if we win on Boxing Day, it will be at least you can't even including that. Then it'll be 10 years, and it'll be 20 league games on the bounce. One thing I do want to bring up. So our co-pod did say no team should lose 20 times in a row to Cardiff. Surely the question is, Dragons shouldn't be losing 20 games in a row to anyone. Anyway, that's a little bit of fun out of the way. Let's go on to our usually wrong team predictions. Although we were pretty good, and we did nail the big Faletau to start one last time out. So I'm quite happy with that. Fraser, which block of players would you like to discuss first?
I might go forwards. If it's all right.
Yeah, sure, go for it.
Yeah. Well, I think it's probably going to be our strongest team, I imagine, against the Dragons. Not even much holding back. So I think, I mean, yeah. Again, correct me if I'm wrong or if think differently, but I guess probably Domachowski, Azarati, Liam Boucher to start. I think in the front row.
Yeah.
And then I think, yeah, Josh McNally, they can get as been mentioned, get every pound out of that transfer fee or that wage. So I think he'll start with Teddy Williams, having captained the team recently as well. So I think they would be in second row. I don't know what you guys think.
Yeah, I think that type five is where I'd go. Dan, do you see any possible changes? Maybe having someone like a Seb or Rory in there.
No, I definitely the second row. I definitely agree with. I think like Teddy and McNally may as well just join themselves at the hip at this point. To be honest, like they are the starting second row. They're such a good. They're the best lock pair we've had for a good couple of years now. I suppose the only I agree in that Doma, Belcher, and Azza are our best front row. The only consideration might be is that if you're looking at a bench front row then of sort of Southworth, probably Evan Lloyd comes back in if Hughes was on the bench last time, and then Litterick. I don't know whether you drop one of the props out and just sort of even up the quality of the front rows there potentially. It might be. Might well be just a case that they just go for it for that 60 and trust that it's not a bad replacement front row, that Southworth, Lloyd and Litterick, but just in terms of the experience and the just evening out the scrummaging ability. But it would probably be having put Azza on the bench last time, it would probably be Doma on the bench this time if he was going to do that. But I don't know. I just really like the Ron the front row being together. So there's that as well.
There's something just right about the Ron the front row. Yeah. It's not the Pontypool front row, we get it, but the Ron the front row still has a good ring to it. I mean, I don't know if it sways your decision, but obviously Dragon signed a loose head prop to cover tight head.
Oh, is he? Is he what?
He's a loose head who covers tight head. Yeah,
right. Okay.
According to the Dragon's Lair guys, and it said, and Jamie said, the scrum did get kind of worse, but his around the field work was great.
He looked big. Oh, that's the only thing
huge.
He is legitimately a unit, which is a completely scientific scale there. I think for me, back row could be quite interesting. I'm tempted to go boring and go Botham Young, Faletau, but I mean, there's a couple of variations we could go with that.
Yeah.
I think Fraser was right to say that Dan Thomas was great last time. But I think on Jockey's sort of switching players in and out tactic, then it probably is Young to come back in for this one. Young tends to play quite well against Dragons for us as well. I think that them being similarly breakdown focused, it makes it a real good battle there, and he obviously enjoys that sort of stuff. So I would be tempted to agree on the board. It doesn't create much thing, but doesn't create much debate. But Botham Young Faletau is our best back row, really. Like that is
it just is.
Yeah. like Alex Mann's been great as well. Big Al's been great, but yeah, I mean those three guys are just top. I mean that could be a Wales back row, really, if Faletau comes straight back in and a new coach appears who doesn't seem to hate everything about Thomas Young, then if Jack Morgan were to be injured, then you wouldn't put it past both them Young Faletau back row to appear at some point. But quality players, and especially with both of them and Faletau being hooked a bit early and Young not playing at all in the last one, they'll be absolutely fresh, ready to go for it.
Yeah, absolutely. And I quite like the idea that you've got both, although both of them, I love the fact he's just a bit like a Josh and and a jack of all trades. Having him and Young as there's that double breakdown threat, which is something I think I feel like from what I have watched of the Dragons this year, I think they're quite guilty as us of sometimes of under resourcing breakdowns, which means that you've got the exposure. Admittedly, that comes back at us as well, and do you maybe want someone who's a bit better on her own ball, but I think that's just more detail and having people on time in. Moving on to the pretty boys who don't tend to get stuck into ruck. Stan, do you want to start us with? Do you want to start us from 15 down to 9?
Yeah. I think it sort of picks itself a little bit, the back line, in that
on who's fit.
Yeah, a little bit like Winnett, a full back. Then you've got Josh Adams definitely on the one wing. Leave the other wing for a sec. I think you've got Lilo and Ben Thomas as definite your centre pairing, and then Sheedy and Ali Davis is your definite halfback pairing at the moment. Then the left wing is probably just a question of, well, Gabe Hamer-Webb's there. He's a bit more experienced, but he's not, the typical left winger that the jockey likes. He would be more on the right side, really. Tom Bowen is more of that typical quicker, nippier left winger, but is obviously 18, very young. Has had one game and done well, but a Boxing Day derby in what is set to be looking like a pretty full Rodney Parade that's a cauldron to run out to. So yeah, I wouldn't have any qualms necessarily about starting Bowen, but I think probably the safer option if your jockey is to go Hamer-Webb and then be a little bit more physical where the pitch can be a little bit heavier and stuff as well, and sort of take that to the Dragons a bit. But yeah, I'm open to be swayed either way on that one if anyone's got any strong thoughts on it.
I sort of had written out what I thought our 23 was going to come up, and I said that Gabe. I did hesitate with for the left wing, so I went with Gabe Hamer-Webb again. I'm just going for that little bit more experience as a player, not necessarily the physical threat. Chance our Dragons are probably going to go for a slightly younger back three, although Ashton Hewitt, I believe, is fit for this one. But like I said, Hugh Anderson was excellent against Newcastle. But all told, I didn't watch it. I wasn't paying. I didn't want to pay £8 to watch Cardiff playing Leon. I wasn't paying to watch Stratford Newcastle. So I said, for me, Bowen did the job we needed to there. I would personally let him have the games against Newport, RFC for the Rags they needed. He's had his taste. Let's carry on, focus on his development. I don't want to have the same situation we've had with some other players where we've had to throw him in too early, and you don't want to risk hampering his development.
Yeah,
if he has one particularly bad performance.
I think I'd agree with you both on Gabe Hamer-Webb, and yeah, Tom Bowen. He had a good match, but there was some people calling him the next like Shane Williams and stuff, and I think it's just a bit steady on, let him go back to not obscurity, but focusing on the day-to-day Cardiff RFC and the Rags, and he did some odd decisions in the match. He wasn't like perfect, so I think there was a kick that he did which was mad. I don't even remember. I don't even know if we had advantage. I don't think we did. And I was like, what happened? It was just a really odd kick. But I mean, that was an outlier and otherwise like solid performance. But I'd probably go Gabe Hamer-Webb. He's always been solid when he's played as well. I think he's a good player as well.
Right, and so then moving on to the bench. So I think we're with Corey Domachowski starting. I think we're fairly certain that it's going to be Danny Southworth. Dan, you think Evan Lloyd as the bench hooker, and then who would be replacement tight end if we've got the Ronda front row?
If he's fit, Litterick is like, I don't know. We've said about this about Will Davis-King a few times. He had a chance there against the Cheetahs, and I don't think he really covered himself in glory necessarily on Saturday night. It was tough because he only had the first half where we were playing into the wind, but the scrum was. It was noticeably more solid when Asa came on. He didn't really I don't think he didn't like fold or anything, but it wasn't a strong scrummaging performance. And then also, I just thought if you track him around the pitch, a guy of his size should be making more impact at sort of breakdowns, particularly attacking breakdowns. And there's sort of 2 or 3 times where under his watch we turned over there. Just he's slow to it and then can't move the player that's over the ball. Then yeah, at 27 or whatever he is now, we said it before, you'd expect him to be at a higher level if he's going to be in and around that 23 sort of week in, week out. And maybe he needs a run of games. And that's, it is difficult to give that to a prop really when you don't want to be blooding a guy at 27, 28 off the bench when you've got other options there in big games. So sticking with him, but I just kind of think we'd have seen a bit more by now that really is sort of says that he's worth sticking with. So if Litteric's fit, it's Litterick ahead of Davis King for me.
Any calls Frazier for either the bench hooker or bench tight end spot?
No, I'd probably agree with that. And I think Will Davis King, he's kind of it's with his size and he's quite I would expect more in the loose maybe from him as well, and you don't really see that. So I think we haven't seen that yet. So I'd probably go Reece Litterick as the sub there.
I said the only thing is I was be tempted to give Hughes another go off the bench over Evan Lloyd. I know we've been rotating around, but I just think Hughes is more. His set piece is just that little bit better, and these derbies are games we want to win. And maybe you give Evan Lloyd a go in Europe.
Yeah,
especially with both, and particularly the next opposition, how both teams have been targeting lineouts at the moment.
I just think if Jockey's going to go every other, then this is the one you go, because Hughes will be massive against the Ospreys. I mean, it's definitely Hughes against the Ospreys there with their set piece and their size. But yeah, if he's gonna stick with one for both of them, then yeah, I'd probably just nudge Hughes over Lloyd at the moment. And
fair play. I'm happy to go Lloyd for now.
Fair play to Dav. He's from the obscurity of Jersey and hardly playing at all last season, he's done a hell of a job this year, to be fair.
Sometimes all it takes is your job. Remember what was only a couple of seasons ago where we thought Azarati slipped down to third or fourth choice and he was being played as hooker for the Rags. So it can be done. Bench, do you think because of all the injuries to the backs, we'll have another 6-2? Do you think we'll go a bit more conventional this time?
No, I feel like it's more of a 5-3. I don't know why the Dragons just strike me as 5-3 opposition, but for no real reason, just sort of vibes. If it is going to be drier and it's going to be a harder pitch and there's going to be a bit more running, I think you might want some extra legs across the backs. Whereas I don't think bringing on 6 forwards will really turn the game either way against the Dragons. Realistically, we should. I think if you look at our 2 packs on paper, we should be dominant there against the Dragons. They're always decent. They're always pretty well coached. But I just think this is a game where we can assert some physical dominance with our starters. So we don't need to bring on 6 to sort of cling on to a Cheetahs who are going to be massive type thing. But yeah, I never mind if we go 6-2. I do think it generally does suit us a bit, but this one feels 5-3-ish. Just getting in.
All right, we're getting the 5-3 vibes, and we are all about the vibes here. So for the 19 and 20 jerseys, then, so we've got options of Seb or Rory for second row cover. I'm leaning more towards Seb again. I mean, I know I said I wanted the more set piece orientated hooker, but I feel like the more jouet second row is where we need to go with the Dragons. Any different opinion there?
There was a nice little line-out seal for Seb at the end of the Cheetahs game as well. There, last one we got up there.
When I go one is the set piece and one is the more jouet, it's not to say the other that Seb can't do the line-out stuff as well.
Just does it with flair.
Yeah. And then back row cover. Are we going to give Big Al a rest and have Alex Mann on the bench? Dan Thomas, another?
I think I'd put Big Al on the bench. I don't know about because Falatau, is he going to get a whole 80? Are they going to risk. I don't know. I guess it depends on the situation, but I think, yeah, I'd probably go Alan Lawrence on the bench over Alex Mann or Dan Thomas. I think, yeah, just to have a really solid number 8 to come on if need be, not to wish ill on Faletau or injury, but yeah, I don't know.
No,
So
that's solid reason. I think in normal circumstances, if Faletau's 100% fit, you probably go man. I think as just your sort of best cover option. But yeah, I don't disagree that. Yeah, I still would be reticent to push Faletau 80 at this point. I think you don't want to just immediately drop him like second game into an 80, especially with that Ospreys game on the horizon then as well.
my sort of feeling was that was with you both of them. I think does such a good, certainly at this level, is such a good 8 that I don't, I feel like we've got the cover there, and I'd rather have someone who's better at covering 6 personally, and plus then you've got that line out option, which I know James Botham's been jumping it to an awful lot.
There is
I don't know if that's a call from Wales as well, because they were using him quite heavily there as well.
If you have Big Al, the only thing I would say is it does open up the very fun possibility of you could withdraw Thomas Young purely for tactical reasons, not wishing injury on him either, and then just having Big Al, Faletau, and Botham as like our largest ever back row, just like turning up and just like carrying constantly, like no line out at all. Like Josh McNally does all the line out stuff. And then we do 5-man lineouts and just leave all 3 back rowers in the middle of the pitch, just staring down the Dragons. That
would be a 4, just to put.
Oh yes,
sorry to be that pedantic.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair.
That'd be a 4, man.
But just having all of them in the back row staring down the Dragons, like looking at sort of like the young Joe Westwood and Naira Owen, like we're coming for you, mate. We're coming straight at you.
And whichever poor sod ends up at 10, whether it's it's whether or not it's the 10 they signed from Gloucester, an actual 10, or someone else. Yeah, I like that. Yeah, we'll go Big Al. Right, so replacing the scrum half, he's had enough of a jolly now. So Bevan, time to earn your paycheck. Too much farting around with Wales and yeah. So yeah, I'm thinking Ellis Bevan as our 9 cover. Then and then I suppose you've got Rory Jennings, and then we don't actually have that many. It'd have to be whichever one out of Gabe Payman, Wem, or Tom Bowen, I guess is. Or, I suppose Jacob Beetham is the other option.
Yeah, but I think Jennings and Beetham are quite similar. But I think you can botch that somehow, that you can fill most gaps in there. I think with Jennings and Beetham, and I would like to see Beetham involved in this 23, having there not been involved against Cheetahs. I think getting him, it's always going to be tricky. I think to balance his game time with the fact that Winnett is, probably still our first choice fullback at the moment, but. If we're going to stand any chance of hanging on to all of these young lads and building them up into real competitive squad depth, we are going to have to play them at some point. It's going to be very tricky when Beetham comes around to his next contract renewal to sort of say, no, do stay. You never play, but please stay anyway. Like if we're going to
stay, you're getting lots of money to do nothing to train. It's not the dream.
So I would like to see Beetham involved in this one, and that's why there may even be in one world a discussion to have about whether you start Beetham over Winnett for this one, and bring Winnett back in against the Ospreys, or vice versa. Is Beetham more cut out to play against the Ospreys as a kind of bigger physical guy? The Ospreys are going to be relatively kick heavy and
the kicking game as well, which when it's not bad kicking the ball as he showed, but Beetham's just got that much bigger boot, and there would be just something really nice to see the life drain out of the Ospreys as Beetham starts kicking 16-meter penalties.
Yeah,
or just saw the Dan Edwards 50-yard drop goal and went went from my own 22.
But yeah, so I'd like to see Beetham involved in this one at some point. If it is a 6-2, then I'd put him as the outside back guy ahead of Jennings, and then if it is 5-3, I think I'd probably have Jennings and Beetham for this one.
Yeah, I mean, I could see a world where you could get our system to work with Beetham at 13 as at a push.
Yeah.
So, he is that more. He is because he is that little bit more physical. All right. So, can I nail you down for some predictions on this one?
Cardiff by 3. It's going to be one of those, like 2022, I think it was, the Corey Domachowski scoring in the last minute, I think. But it's going to be one of those kind of vibes, I think, personally. Yeah, and I think Newport will put up a bit more of a fight than maybe anticipated based on their just this bit of confidence in their team. So yeah, I reckon Cardiff by 3. But
Like I'm having an internal conflict over sort of yeah, I think it will be quite a tight, touchy game. It always is, but also, oh, I'd love to predict Cardiff by like 30 and, and just like reach 20 in like absolute style of bonus point inside 15 minutes and hammering them. But yeah, I'll go somewhere in the middle and say Cardiff by 9.
Do you know, I've already forgotten what I predict on the wrap. I think I said something like Cardiff by 4 or 5. After saying, oh, I could see Dragons really having a chance here, and I went, nah, it'll be Cardiff. It'll be 20 in a row. So for this one, I'm going to go Cardiff by, let's say 7. We'll let them have the losing bonus point. Right, which moves us on to possibly from one of my least favorite derbies to one of my most favorite derbies, but I always hate the result. We are taking on the team that play in black and also blue for this season in the Ospreys. They've recently parted with Toby Booth, which was announced today as we record. Had in good win first week of Europe, and then a not so good loss last weekend. How are we feeling about the Ospreys this season? Are they definitely gettable? We're on our own turf patch, and we're not going to be playing in a quagmire.
I think they're gettable. I think they've lost a lot in their set piece game. It's gone. Obviously, Nicky Smith left, and it just feels like they don't have. That was their big, difference maker. Was their solid, strong set piece that could, and with Tom Bofer as well, and just like kind of steamroll you a little bit and just get that territory and dominance, get the penalties, and kind of dictate the game. And I think feels like they've lost that, not just a bit, but like they just don't have that same, even when they are on form, it's more of a parity as opposed to, a dominance. They don't have the dominance what seems like they don't have the dominance. So I think we stand a good chance of like having parity in the forward pack. And yeah, I again, feels bad predicting Cardiff wins. I don't know. I get nervous about it, but yeah, I'm quietly confident. I'm probably more confident against Ospreys than against the Dragons, which I don't know. Yeah, I'm fairly confident with a victory on the New Year's Day, but I don't know what you guys think.
Yeah, it's true. I'm glad you said it and I didn't. So if the clip comes out, then it's you.
Yeah.
I do like tend to agree actually. I think the slight unknown and now after that Toby Booth news is sort of what the reaction is there. It'd be interesting to see the game against the Scarlets on the weekend. Now, obviously something wasn't right behind the scenes. Like I don't know exactly. It's impossible to say from our vantage point of well outside that bubble, but. Yeah, like it was weird to announce he was leaving and that Mark Jones was taking over, but leave them as they were in the first place. And then they've sort of sat on it for like 2 months where they've been obviously underperforming in that time. And then they've chosen to relieve him of, well, I think it said it was mutual or whatever, but clearly the Ospreys have instigated that conversation of him leaving in the week of their biggest game in the run up to the festive derbies. Like that's just oddly managed. And so obviously something has broken down, whether it's between Booth and the players or whether it's between Booth and the higher ups. There's something's not right. But I suppose it either carries on like that with Mark Jones stepping straight up and most of the coaching stays the same, or there is a bit of a bounce there and maybe the shackles come off and they do play a bit because I absolutely agree with what Fraser said. They are not the last season they were this like forward dominated like real process driven team, like a real machine in how they were playing. But this season they've lost that a bit and it's then become obvious that their back play is like really like quite poor really. It's where they're one of the worst back play teams in the league and they don't offer much.
Kieran Williams isn't there.
Yeah, it's
Is one thing I would like to point out with that.
it just doesn't I don't think it works with Watkin at 13. I don't think they know really how to best utilize their fullbacks. You know, Nagy and Walsh are decent players, but they don't seem to get the best out of them. And then ultimately the tactic just relatively comes sling it wide for Giles or Cassende or whoever they've got on the wing, and just sort of hope that they do something to a degree. But yeah, I think we've definitely got a chance to go at them. It'll become a proper who can stay in the fight longest kind of battle, as it always does against the Ospreys. But hopefully it is us. And yeah, I think particularly if we put in a good performance against the Dragons, I'd be really confident of carrying that into the Ospreys game. But as the cliche is with Welsh derbies, form goes out the window and anything can happen. So yeah, never write off the Ospreys on New Year's Day against Cardiff. That's what I'd also say.
So obviously, due to the logistics of playing in a football club's grounds, they've had to move their Boxing Day game to this weekend, so Saturday. So that gives them an 11-day turnaround. We've only got a 6-day turnaround. Do you think that's going to make a big difference to the way we prepare, or?
Yeah, but it can be a real positive for us. I think obviously we've got the slightly longer break this side of the games with a long run up into Boxing Day. And then they've got the short turnaround coming back from Montpellier to play the Scarlets this week. So in terms of the 2 weeks as a whole, we've got the same amount of rest time and stuff. And hopefully, what the way it'll turn out is that if the Ospreys struggle against the Scarlets this weekend, they've got a long time to sort of sit on that and acquiesce over it. Whereas if we can go in and beat the Dragons quite well on Boxing Day, then we can carry that momentum straight through on the shorter turnaround into the Ospreys game. So yeah, fingers crossed that's the way it turns out. But certainly if we get a bit banged up in certain positions on Boxing Day, then we might be scrabbling for players a little bit come New Year's Day.
And the other thing is, let's hope the cameras keep rolling for the full 80 minutes this time, because clearly the only reason Ospreys won last New Year's Day was because the cameras went out. And I'm not sure. I don't believe they actually did win, and I think it's all just a big conspiracy.
Well, there'll certainly be less mud this time anyway. I think I'd safely bet that there will be the conditions will hopefully be kinder to Cardiff, because yeah, that's often been the case on New Year's Day as well. Is that if this is roughly a vibes based thing, but I think there's a bit of thinking behind it. Is that if you look at the games in the last couple of years we've played against the Ospreys, we've tended to struggle on New Year's Day where the weather's a bit worse and it becomes a bit of a forwards battle, and then we've tended to perform quite well at Judgment Day where the weather's a bit better and the pitch is a bit harder and we can play our game a bit more. So hopefully the weather's a little bit kind to us for playing on our plastic pitch, and we can use that to our advantage, and the respective turnaround times won't become much of an issue.
Yeah, I think Fraser, anything you want to add about the weather and whether or not we actually get to see the full 80 this time round?
No, nothing. I think I'm looking forward to it. Love the Christmas derbies. I'm just kind of excited.
Yeah, well, so excellent stuff. No, so already elaborated that it's a 6-day turnaround. There are a couple of tactical changes we might want to wait. Right, so if we assume Dragons go smoothly, everyone comes through unscathed, 6-day turnaround, what sort of changes do you think we'd make based on the 23 we've got last time? So we've always said probably bringing in Dav Hughes over Evan Lloyd. Any other names that might switch around?
I think you definitely see more of a front row switch for this one, where they will try and match up the sort of scrummaging prowess, because although the Ospreys are, they're not quite the pack they were, they're still going to be a decent scrummaging pack. So I think, you could see something like Doma and Azza, one of or both even potentially drop into the bench and just giving us that consistent sort of 80-minute scrummaging ability. And then I think maybe it could be an Ellis Bevan game at 9 as well to start with, and then Davis coming off the bench. I think Davis has obviously he's been playing brilliantly, to be fair, and he's got that sort of more experienced head in the game management. But I think that Ellis Bevan left boot could be a real weapon against the Ospreys and cause that back three early doors a bit of trouble with Beetham at full back as well. Just real bump up our kicking game. Go almost like more direct than we've ever seen Cardiff go and try and pin them back. And I don't think Ospreys are a team that is going to run it back from deep. If we can pin them back in their own 22, they will give us field position or cough the ball up and give us a chance to attack from there. It's never a game where we, especially on New Year's Day, where we sort of make 6 to 8 line breaks and like a couple of 100 meters and slice through them like that. So yeah, that would be my sort of thinking towards it, is a bit more open and a bit more free flowing against the Dragons, and then a bit tighter and a bit more direct and take the game to the Ospreys. And like Fraser said, where we can get on top of them, really sort of emphasize that's what we're coming to do, and we're there to beat them up rather than vice versa, as it has been over the last few years.
Okay, so is this where we're going to see our Big Al, Botham, Falletto back row then?
Big Al at hooker, like we're going full out for it.
I don't know, Belcher and Dav Hughes, and actually Evan Lloyd as well. They're not shirking the carrying duties, to be fair.
That's
so
fair, that's fair.
Won't worry about them. So if you're going to call on it, which one? So Azra was on the bench for the Cheetahs. Do we go Dom on the bench for the Ospreys and Southworth starting? Well, who do you feel more comfortable starting? Really, would you Southworth or Litterick?
Just on basis of Litterick possibly being off at the end of the season, and I quite like Danny Southworth. I think I'd give him a chance to start in a derby game and see what he's about in those. We've seen him in sort of random games up until now starting, but give him a chance in a big sold out derby at the Arms Park, see what he's about.
So, mate, right? Any other changes? So, was it seriously about the back row? Would you change that up, or would you go same twice in 2 weeks?
I might plump for Dan Thomas to come in, maybe. Don't know. He's been playing so well. He was really good against, obviously, Cheetahs, big pack, but like forward pack, and he was good at disrupting the ball and just being a nuisance generally. So maybe put him in, do the swap Young for Thomas, possibly.
Cool. Right, and any other back change? So are we happy with Bevan in for Alid and Beetham in for Winnett?
Yeah, I don't see, if Ben and Ray are both still walking, then they'll be in pretty much. They're nailed on, and yeah, I don't think, unless I've missed it, has there been any mention of De Beer? And obviously he went off against Leon, and we didn't really see why.
Nothing I've seen. Nothing. Yeah, I said there's nothing I've seen.
No, so I think we just assume we stick with Sheedy then. I think, yeah, that would be my starting 15 changes.
Yeah, for me, I'd stick with Sheedy and just hope he's on a good day for the boot.
Yeah,
because usually if he's on a good day with the boots, we're pretty infallible then. Bench wise, any other changes? Would you bring in some fresh blood, or would you go for that 6-2 against the Ospreys, or would we keep that? Or are you still feeling the 5-3 vibe?
I'm thinking maybe a 6-2. I was bigging up our forward press and slandering the Ospreys, but yeah, I think 6-2. just in case they do still have dominance in the forward pack, and I am just talking about my ass, which I probably am.
Yeah.
So how do you set up your 6-2? Would you go for 2 back row or 2 second row? So would you have a seven Rory as 2 of your bench forwards, or would you go for one of those and then 2, and then say Alex Mann and Big Al?
For me, I agree with Fraser starting Dan Thomas, but then I'd have Young on the bench.
Okay.
I think what I would then ask Dan Thomas, just like 55 minutes, mate, give us everything, empty the tank, and then Thomas Young's pace then in a 6-2, in that last 20, 25, 30 minutes, that always causes the Ospreys real trouble, that injection of his pace. I think think back to when we beat them at a Judgment Day, when obviously Dye had been suspended that week, but we lifted the Welsh Shield victoriously, monumental day in the club's history. But he was superb that day, and it was all his pace and the speed that he was getting to the breakdown that got him everything. So yeah, I would I'd definitely have Young on the bench, and then one of Man or Big Al then as your other back row option. I think hopefully by then, if we have Al on the bench against Dragons, hopefully Faletau will be in a position where he can potentially go 80 a bit more, and then you'd have Man on the bench for that one and just sort of whisper in his ear that Jack Morgan said, you're shit, mate. And then he just runs on like absolutely mad and is just ready to sort of smash into everybody, but without sort of costing penalties like he did in Leon.
Yeah, maybe. Right. So that sounds good. And then are we sticking with Seb on the bench then as our second row? Or would you go for Thornton for the set piece? Because I suppose if we're going for dynamism off the bench, I would argue then we want to keep Seb. Because then bringing on Seb, Man and Thomas Young, that's a very dynamic injection for the back five. But you might lose a bit in set piece.
Just on a general level, I like Rory. Don't get me wrong. I think he's a good guy, and he he's great line out guy, and he always gives 100%. But I just don't actually think there's any world in which I pick Rory over Seb if they're both available. I think there is a very clear second row hierarchy at the club at the moment of Teddy is permanent marked into the starting 15 if he's fit. Then Josh McNally is heavily penned in as your second choice. Then Seb is there, which you would put him above Josh if McNally needed a rest or whatever. And then there's a bit of a gap, and then it's Rory Thornton then as your backup guy. I don't.
I was half expecting you to say there's Ben Donnell when there's Al Lawrence.
I like Rory and this, what he brings and stuff. And yeah, he always gives it a go, but he is noticeably fourth choice for me at the moment.
I like bringing him in just because I do like what he brings. I do like how over the last couple of seasons he has seemed to be the thing that makes the lineup click again. Although I said Teddy's been doing such a good job running it, I'm not too worried. I think for this one I'd probably be more inclined to take Josh McNally off these next two games just because I think he is getting towards the last 20 minutes and he's given away a few. Harshly, you'd call him thick, but I'd say tired decision. But I'm going to go with tired decision penalties he's given away. Right, one or two you might have argued as harsh, but there's somewhere he's just clearly done something because he's trying to do the shortcut and got caught. But I think this seems. So again, I'm going to go ask you for your predictions that are so way too early. So will you phrase it?
All right. Yeah, I'm going to go Cardiff again. And, based on what I said earlier, I think, Cardiff by 7 for this one. A little bit more confident, but yeah.
Then?
I think I'll probably go slightly under this time, so I'm going to say Cardiff by 3 on this one. I struggle to predict this to sort of beat the Ospreys by anything other than narrowly on New Year's Day. If we're going to do it eventually, it's just going to be we'll play. We might play quite well, and we might beat them, but somehow we'll have to rely on Callum Sheedy scuffing over a penalty in sort of the 78th minute to do it or something like that.
New Year's Day last year, despite the horrific weather and pitch, we managed to get a bonus point, and basically only just lost because Morgan Morse had some moments of magic. Which, to be fair, fair play, that was a hell of a try. He made a lot of players looking silly.
Yeah.
But he's injured, as is 80% of the Osprey squad. So I just say I'm a bit more confident. I'm more confident about a winning with the Dragons than I am winning with the Ospreys. I think on the wrap I might have picked Ospreys to win, to be honest, just because I'm that pessimistic / playing tactically for the prediction league there. But for this, I'm going to say Cardiff by. We'll go Cardiff by 4. I think. So just to sort of sum up all of our predictions, so Lee can make a nice, wonderful YouTube clip to shame us all with after the festive derbies. So for the Dragons game, Frazier picked Cardiff by 3. Dan, you picked Cardiff by 9. I've picked Cardiff by 7. And then for the Ospreys, again, we've gone for all three of us have gone for Cardiff wins. Frazier's gone for us by 7. Dan by us by 3, and I'm gone for us by 4. Unless there's anything else that you guys would like to discuss about Cardiff news. So there is one more thing before I invite you in. Actually, the Celtic Challenge has started. So obviously, last season on the pod, we sort of adopted Gwalia Lightning as our sort of team. In that, they're going to be playing out of Ystrad this thing, which seems baffling to me, but that's WRU for you. They're going to be they're starting off their campaign with double headers against Brython Thunder. So the first game is on Saturday at 11:30. 11:30. So before any of the other rugby, so good chance to watch it. That's going to be on BBC iPlayer for anyone who's keen to watch it. And I open the floor to my colleagues.
I forgot one piece of Rags news. Having mentioned Rory Thornton and his line-out prowess there, he is now the line-out coach of the Rags. Josh Turnbull has stepped down from that because he's doing about a gazillion other things at the moment, coaching-wise, with the Cardiff Academy, Cardiff Junior Academy. I think he's head coaching. I don't know if they've confirmed it yet, but I'm pretty sure he's head coaching Cardiff under-18s for their Rag block just after Christmas, and he's involved with Wales under-18s when they're back sort of sporadically from January through to May time. So yeah, I think it was felt that it was somewhat taking the piss to ask him to travel down from Carmarthenshire all the time for the Rags training.
He was at our Ashley Beck.
Yeah.
For those of you who listen to the Raps Women's pod, where we point out that Ashley Beck seems to have every job in the WRU at the moment.
But it's great to get Thornton in there. He coached a bit at Bonamine, which I think is his local team back when he was Ospreys way. And last season he was with Cardiff Uni and Buck Super Rugby all season. So he's doing a bit of a coaching apprenticeship alongside playing. And yeah, if he can pass on any of the line-out wisdom that clearly he possesses and that he seems to have passed on to Teddy Williams quite well so far as well, then that would be great. But hopefully it's not just a case of be taller, because that's maybe quite difficult for some people. Yeah,
I've been trying for a while. It hasn't worked.
It's just that I think it's good. It's a latest in a number of good pathway announcements that the club have made, bringing in a guy focusing purely on that sort of 14 to 16 age range with the elite performance centers and Jewish Shield stuff. Then there's mention on that news release about Thornton as well that Dan Fish and Craig Everett are going to be involved in coaching a regional academy under-23 team, which will play Wales under-20s twice next month. And a couple of the backroom staff guys, the analysis guys and S&C guys have stepped up from their academy duties to be involved with Wales age grade teams as well. So lots of good stuff going on in the pathway at the moment, which, on top of the good crop of players we've got coming through, makes me almost painfully positive about the future.
Anything you want to add, Fraser?
No, I think going off that, it does seem like there's a plan forming, or something's happening, changes are afoot in kind of, the academy and kind of youth pathways with the WRU, which is really positive to hear. And also, I mean, Rory Thornton, I'm positive about him. He has brilliant hair. I just want to.
That's true.
And also, just really, every week I'm just going to say how amazing he is for never getting injured. He's such an integral part of this team. I just don't know how he stays physically fit every week to play these games, because he there's never a question whether he'll start or not. He's there and he doesn't get injured. So I just shout out to him again.
That was my what you said about the Tom Bowen kick earlier, the crossfield kick, is obviously for Ray, who's on that left wing, and it's like I actually think that vision wise it wasn't very well executed, but I sort of see what he's trying to do maybe a little bit. But you also got to
forgot
think
something
that
about Ray.
you can't cross kick to Ray in the 80th minute. He's not interested. Like that is not something that Ray is doing in the 80th minute of a game at all. So yeah, I think the learning point there for Tom Bowen more than anything was know your teammates versus like rather than like how you're carrying out the kick or anything like that. Like
Ray is 87 years old and he is going to be playing 1 million minutes this season. Like just let him take the easy route when again. Speaking of the sort of development pathways, one bit of news I did forget to put on the thing, but something that's very close to my heart. My alum finally beat Cardiff Met in the Bucks Derby Dash. So well done Cardiff Uni, beating Met 31-26, something like that. Yeah, that made my evening. Frazier, we forgot to ask last time you were on, how can people get in touch with you if they've enjoyed listening to you on the pod?
Well, unfortunately, I don't use any social media. I mean, I have a Facebook, but I don't really use it, so it's going to be quite hard to get in touch with me. Maybe I should set up a Blue Sky account, maybe, so you can aim any like slander at me. I think that's going to be the thing that's going to.
So I think the best way to say that is contact the pods. If you want to message Fraser, leave a comment on the YouTube or message us on the X account at Cardiff Central. I still haven't gotten around to making a Blue Sky account for Cardiff Central because I'm lazy. Otherwise, you can find me on Blue Sky solely. I don't really. I went off Twitter and I've never been happier. Dan, how can they get hold of you, Cardiff Rugby Life, or your wonderful blogs that come out now and again?
Yes, I'm everywhere at all times, all social medias, MySpace, Bebo, we're going back in time. I've got all of them. But no, Cardiff Rugby Life generally, just search that up on Facebook, Twitter, Blue Sky, and I'm at PSE149. If you want inane tweets about sort of Glamorgan cricket or what I had for tea.
So what did you have for tea? Or have you not had it yet?
I haven't had it yet, but I'm about to make myself very nice chicken supreme, which is my last healthy meal before I officially start Christmas binge eating tomorrow. So.
Excellent stuff. Fraser?
Chicken risotto. Actually, it's quite, it was good. I had it yesterday, got leftovers, so yeah.
I had corned beef hash. It was like tender stem broccoli and beans that was in the freezer. Because... Yeah, and do you know, it's great. It's exactly what I need when it's absolutely belting it down the rain. Anyway, that's enough of the distraction. As you can tell, we're an incredibly professional outfit. So thank you, Dan. Thank you, Fraser, for joining me on my rambles. And thank you all for bearing with and listening. Good night.
That was the Cardiff Central podcast. Please rate, review and share us on socials if you can, and join us again next week for more of the same. And until then, enjoy your rugby.
This podcast is part of the Sports Social Podcast Network.